There is no second spike. Public health is the new climate change. Media rallies against Trump rallies. Court heard General Flynn's appeal today. J.K. Rowling believes women are real. And who's actually going to end up stealing this election? Welcome to the Buck Sexton Show, everyone. Thank you so much for being here. My, oh my, I had quite a morning. We have a lot to get to today. I want to dive into what I have been predicting on this show for a while now. You knew it would happen. You knew it was just a function of time. The second spike discussion. We went from the second wave. Now it's a spike because that sounds scarier. Just in time for Trump rallies. Oh, what a surprise. Who could have imagined that such a thing would happen? But now I have to tell you, I spent my morning listening to the oral arguments in the General Flynn case. Now, this may sound a little bit like, oh, come on, how interesting could that be? Oh, no, it was fascinating. I was sitting there drinking my Black Rifle coffee and listening to the oral arguments in D.C. at the D.C. Circuit Court of Appeals. And sure enough, one thing became very clear. There is no principle or institution that liberals, that the left, the Democrats are unwilling to tear down. There's no institution or principle they will not destroy for just a few sweet moments of hashtag resistance glory. Doesn't sound like the Flynn case is going to be resolved by the appeals court. I could be wrong on that. That's a prediction. We'll have to see. But at this stage, it doesn't seem to me like that's likely because of what was said and the arguments that were being made. And let's just be clear that to continue the case against Flynn, the libs here, in this case, Judge Sullivan, his amicus buddy, former Judge Gleason, and Beth Wilkinson, the lawyer on behalf of Judge Sullivan. Now you got lawyers, you got judges hiring lawyers to make a case for them that the government isn't making, the prosecutorial branch, and that the defense has already agreed with the government the case should be dropped. But now we're watching a federal judge step in and push for the case to continue on his own. Oh, no, they're saying it's just to get more advice on the situation. This is the abuse of the process, and the process is very much the punishment. To continue the case against General Flynn at this stage, the libs are relying on bad faith, transparently stupid positions, and they're extending a federal prosecution of a man for months after the government has dropped the case, all in order to amuse a judge who has said bizarre things in this case in the past, including accusing Flynn of treason. And we're supposed to believe that this is not a distortion of Article 3 of the Constitution. No, my friends, the process is the punishment. That is the whole point here. The argument, while a lot of complexity talked about, and there's a lot of citing of precedent, the argument boils down to some of the judges on the appeals court are saying, well, we should at least allow Sullivan, there are 3 judges hearing this, we should at least allow Sullivan the opportunity to do the obviously right thing here in a month. So let's not get too hasty. The clear counterargument to that is, why hasn't he already done the obvious thing, which is the motion to dismiss should be granted. This case should be done, gavelled, over. Flynn should walk out a free man with no conviction on his record, nothing. Why delay? Oh, because they want to have the opportunity to poke at the Trump administration. Because the judge here realizes that he'll be vilified by the left, by the Dems, the libs. Oh, my gosh, good heavens. If you were to have Joe Biden win the next election, this judge might find himself on the wrong side of an IRS audit. Who knows the ways that the libs will try to exact revenge upon him for not finishing off the case against General Flynn. Let's all remember here, this is a case that is a clear ambush, was a clear ambush by the FBI and the DOJ. We have all the evidence we need to come to that conclusion right now. That is what the Department of Justice has said. But this is a recurring theme with the left. If the Supreme Court rules in their favor, It is a sacrosanct institution that is beyond reproach, and anyone who does not see it that way is a terrible person. If the Supreme Court rules against the libs, maybe we should stack the court. It's politicized. Oh, I don't trust those conservative judges. It's all a sham. And this is the way they are with elections, the way they are with courts, the way they are with the Department of Justice and its prosecution decisions. The decision to prosecute can't be changed. Why? Oh, because you had a special counsel that determined that General Flynn lied to the FBI in the ambush interview, entirely built upon false premises, trying to take out an incoming national security advisor because the Obama administration and the foreign policy fools around him didn't like it, didn't like Flynn, didn't like that Trump won. And now we're seeing the justice system itself at the level of federal judges making a mockery of the whole system. This is appalling. You're going to continue to drag out a case. It's already been years. You're going to now continue to drag this out even more as a federal judge after the government has completely within its power and without any evidence of bad faith, without any evidence of corruption that they can point to. The executive branch has said, we're not prosecuting this case anymore. This never should have been brought. And in fact, what they are claiming is that there was injustice initially in bringing the case. And somehow this judge is going to continue with it. I don't think that there's going to be a resolution from the appeals court. I think they're going to push it back down to Judge Sullivan and say, let's see what he does. And Judge Sullivan is going to turn the courtroom into a circus of anti-Trump arguments and innuendo. And the administration was so wrong here. It's going to allow for all this. They could call witnesses. They can do all kinds of things. They're going to be prosecuting a case without a prosecution. This is Kafkaesque. I mean, this is insane. I understand this is just, you look at this and say, this is one case. Yeah, but it was a strike at the heart of the incoming Trump administration from the crybaby deep state libs who couldn't accept that they lost the election, couldn't accept that, hello, Hillary wasn't the president of the United States. The fact that they tried to foist this intense and rapaciously greedy and dishonest mediocrity upon all of us, who's really, her best political move was marrying and then staying married to Bill Clinton. We're supposed to believe this woman now should rule the world. It's absurd. But they were so upset about that even people who were career so-called government servants couldn't accept the results of a free and fair election. Tens of millions of Americans coming out and casting their vote. Couldn't accept it. Had to find a way to try to even the score. Remember, they were trying to take down the entire Trump administration. They managed to ambush Flynn, but Flynn was just a part of the overall effort to prove that Donald Trump was a traitor and to get him removed from office. The whole point of the special counsel was to set up either a criminal charge against the president, which they didn't have. So they said, oh, we can't criminally charge the president, so we won't make a determination. Isn't that convenient? All these slimy, lawyerly tricks that have been pulled here. It's never about justice. It's never about what's right, what's fair, what's decent. The special counsel across the board, a sham. This proceeding against General Flynn, appalling. And it's not over yet. You know why? They want to try to humiliate the Trump administration going into the reelection campaign. They want to try to find a way to claim to give the people that are in the media as legal experts are really some of the dumbest people I've ever seen in my life. They're actually dumber than the national security experts that I know who are libs in the media, who know nothing, who are astonishingly ignorant and stupid. But they say things that will make Cooper and Tapper and Cuomo, etc., nod. Yeah, that's right. That's good. Good analysis there. People are abject morons. But the legal experts are even worse because all they do is view themselves as lawyers for the Democratic Party. They're not giving you legal analysis. They're giving you the DNC talking points of what the law would say if the Democrats could make it up as they're going along. And so that's why so many people are confused here. This really isn't complicated. There is no good faith reason for a judge to continue this nonsense destruction campaign against General Flynn. There's no reason except to extend it out, have there be greater degrees of humiliation here. He's appointed an amicus for what reason? Where is the party here that is claiming that there needs to be a prosecution of Flynn? Oh, it's the Washington Post editorial page. It's the New York Times across the board. I mean, I was going to say editorial page. It's everyone over there. It's CNN. It's the DC elites. That's who wants a prosecution of Flynn. But that doesn't matter in a judicial proceeding because there's no actual prosecution to speak of. And the executive branch has said, no, this should not have happened. We're done here. Judge Sullivan saying, no, I don't think you're done. I want to, I'm demanding that we continue this. And it really is an Alinskyite abuse of the process. It's something similar to, in sports, sometimes they figured out that people can claim unlimited injury timeouts and then they get abused by people in bad faith. They'll say, oh, the momentum has gone against them. And this happens in tennis. And so people say, oh, my foot really hurts. We need to take a break. And then the momentum turns against them again. Yeah, my foot really hurts again. I mean, this is what is happening in a federal court involving the prosecution of a 3-star general and the former short-term national security advisor to the current administration. They're just abusing the rules. Everyone can see it. There's no real reason to continue this because there's no prosecution because there never should have been a prosecution. And listening to the arguments being made, it's absurd. It's all just, hold on, let's just give this more time. There's no harm here. Give it more time. Extend this out. No harm. Flynn has been bankrupted. Flynn has been ruined. And this is all about trying to keep open a door for the attacks against the Trump administration through claiming that Attorney General Bill Barr, who's already been the Attorney General in a previous Republican administration, the guy's a world-class lawyer, and they're all going to pretend that he's been compromised or something. I mean, it's just, these people are shrill maniacs. I didn't think I'd get to the point where there's not even a good argument to be made on the other side, and therefore I just disrespect people openly who try to make the argument. There is no good faith case to be made here. But it goes actually to our current moment with the movement such as it is right now out there, with COVID-19 lockdowns. It's not about good faith anymore. We are entering a period of absolute bare knuckle fighting over power. And people on the left, the Democratic Party, will do anything to achieve the power that they seek, and they will pay any price to get there. It does not matter to them. Doesn't matter who they ruin, what they do to the country. Everything is open to them now. They have no dignity or principles to protect. They'll do whatever they have to do. Look at Nancy Pelosi. She'll kneel with a kente scarf around her neck, every day until the election if it means the Democrats win. There's no amount of humiliation. There's no amount of dishonesty. There's no amount of self-debasement the Democrats won't engage in, and destruction of institutions and sacred norms and things that they always claim Trump is guilty of. They themselves are guilty of. They themselves have done things that are clearly just the expression of political outrage, have nothing whatsoever to do with the sanctity of our democracy or protecting our system or anything else. So the Flynn case is very much an emblem. It's a symbol. It's a centerpiece of all of these other dynamics that are playing out all around us. They don't care about equal justice. They don't care about justice at all. They don't like something. They want something to be their way. That is the only thought process the Democratic Party currently goes through. This bad, that good. I want. Do it my way. You'll notice that the ideology of the mob is very similar to and sounds very much like the ideology of a spoiled child. That's really what the Democratic Party has turned into, a spoiled child that throws tantrums, that does not want any of the other children to have the same cookie, that does not want any of the other children to play by the same rules. They want what they want, and if they don't get it, they're going to scream and kick and hit people around them. That is the Democratic Party of today.
This legislation, the HEROES Act, says let's open the economy. We all agree we want to do that. Let's open the economy. Let's have our children be able to go back to school safely. We don't have a vaccine and we don't have a therapy. God willing, we will soon, and we hope and pray that science will be an answer to our prayers in that regard. However, we do have a path. Testing. If there's one word we should all be saying over and over again, testing. We're not even close to what we should be doing on a daily basis. The scientists, academics all over the country are preaching this, but the White House has not responded.
Too late, Nancy. Too late for this. I'm sorry. We're not going to play this game now where we pretend that we can't all see exactly what's going on here. All of a sudden, the protests have unleashed their full fury on the streets of the United States. Over 120 cities, massive protests, rioting, looting, violence, police stations destroyed, buildings burnt out. That's happened. And then we turn around and say, well, hold on a minute. Now we're going to start getting lectures about how we need more testing? After all the abandonment of social distancing that had occurred in the last 2 weeks. Thousands upon thousands of people in very close quarters for hours and hours on end. And, most of them were on the younger side. I'm sure a lot of them have family members they've gone back to. I'm sure there are plenty of people they're sharing homes with. And I'm not going to make jokes about them all living in, parents' basements, but there probably are some who live in their parents' basements and are putting those who are at the higher age or in the higher age brackets at risk from this, assuming that outdoor spread is a risk, which I don't think it is. But they are now saying it is because they got the excuse for 2 weeks. They were able to get a dispensation from the media, and Fauci, who's like, the mitigation, where'd it go? Oh, we lost it for 2 weeks, but we got it now back for 2 more weeks. Now, all of a sudden, we're going to start hearing about testing. We don't use the testing capacity that currently exists. And guess what? We're not going to be able to tell people that they all have to get tested every 2 weeks so that Nancy Pelosi doesn't freak out about it. That's just not going to happen. What have I been telling you about test and trace and all this other stuff? But the panic that is starting right now is a politicized panic about the second wave. I'm telling you, I've been telling this all along, we're going to be all right from a disease standpoint, but the political response to this could be catastrophic. Get ready for the second wave. That's what they're telling you. Georgia has been open for weeks and weeks. Texas, these places have been open, and they are going to do everything they can. You've already seen this reflected in the stock market. There was a big stock market rally that then got turned completely around because the media started with this panic of, oh my gosh, there's a second wave that is here. And they've been saying every 2 weeks for the last 6 to 8 weeks, just wait 2 more weeks. There's going to be a wave. Just wait 2 more weeks. Let me explain to you why we should not believe them. Now, it's a different thing to say the disease is still out there. Yes, of course it is. That there are still people who are getting it. There are still people who are getting hospitalized. There are still people who are dying from it. But the numbers are dramatically lower than they were a few months ago. We have gotten a bit better, according to doctors that I've been speaking to, about treating it. That doesn't mean we have a real therapeutic, but we have gotten better at treating it as a general matter. And also because we're in the summer months now, upper respiratory diseases are less than they are during the winter months. We know this from just life. Year in and year out, colds and flu, When does that happen? You go to your drugstore. When are you picking up cold and flu medicine? Not a lot of you are doing that in July. I'm not saying it's impossible, but it's rare. It's rare. But now we see, okay, we're supposed to do what exactly? Continue drag through. Oh, that's right. We're back to this now. Let's drag through more lockdowns. Let's have this continue on where we can't live our lives. Our economy comes to a screeching halt again, and it's all just constrained. They want us to be on economic life support with the federal government funneling cash to us because they understand that is advantageous for politics. There's nothing they won't do, my friends. The only thing that holds the left back is what will help us. And what are they able to do? That's it. There's no morality. There's no shared sense of decency that is holding them back in a political sense from doing anything or from saying anything, from making any claim. They've completely lost their minds. The old liberals have been defeated. That's what you're seeing right now. I think it's very important to understand that. The old liberalism is now on the way out. This new brand of wokeness, of radicalism, the Jacobins of the Democratic Party are the ones that are calling the shots. They really can't control them anymore. They can't tell the young, the 25-year-old who thinks that someone who says anything they don't like can just be accused of basically committing violence. And therefore, there's a moral obligation to punish and shut down and destroy that person. Words I don't like equals violence. This is a terrible thing for this country. I mean, this is a recipe for the eradication of freedom. Entirely. I mean, to live in a subservient state to the will of the left and the big S state. That's what we are heading for unless we recognize this for what it is. They told us 15 days to stop the spread or to flatten the curve. That was what they told us. And now they're telling us, well, it's really going to be more like maybe 6 months, maybe 12 months, maybe 18 months. That's what we're looking at. No, we didn't sign up for that. I didn't agree to that. My friends, as conservatives, we are going to have to engage in mass noncompliance. Oh, only the left gets to do civil disobedience? I don't think so. If they try to shut us down again in ways that are within our conscience and that are safe, we should say no. We should say that we're not going to do that. We should non-comply. Those of you who are in positions to defy that authority should defy that authority. It's now become a little act of defiance for me every day just to walk outside and to go out in the building. I live in an apartment building. I don't own it. I don't own anything. And I don't wear a mask. I go outside without a mask. I come back in without a mask. I don't do it. That's a little act of defiance right now because you're supposed to, based on an executive order from the government, from the governor of New York State, Cuomo, who is a moron and a bad guy. That's not a legislative act. That's not within his purview to determine. This wouldn't withstand constitutional scrutiny. And, in an emergency, there are certain things that can fly. There are certain things that you're just going to let go. But this is not an emergency. This is now something that is manageable. This is something that we can deal with. And they're acting like they can just turn on that emergency button again as soon as they want. As soon as, we all know this, it is politically useful because they want to have a means of criticizing the upcoming Trump rallies. Because here's what you're going to see at the Trump rallies. Tens of thousands of people gathered together who support this president, who support his agenda, who believe in law and order, who want the economy to be restored, and who I think have started to get a sense of how endangered freedom really is in this country. I'm pleased to see that White House economic advisor Larry Kudlow, who I think is just at that stage in life where he's just going to speak the truth. And he knows that they're going to come after him with everything they've got. And he knows that the psycho libs can't handle anything. They're all really so emotionally damaged. I mean, that's an observation that we should all have about the woke left and people who believe in this, people who really think that they're changing the world by putting up a black square on their Instagram or doing a video where they're just like, I take responsibility for all the bad things. I take responsibility. No, you don't. No, responsibility comes with consequence. There's no consequence. In fact, there's only upside. That's not taking responsibility. That's patting yourself on the back. What a great person you are. Virtue signaling isn't brave. That's why we make fun of it all the time. But Kudlow is at the point now where he doesn't care how emotionally deranged and unstable the left is. He's just going to speak the truth. So he said earlier today that a second wave of the coronavirus was not descending upon the country. And, of course, Politico is saying even as cases are spiking in more than a dozen states. Kudlow told Fox and Friends, quote, there's no emergency. There is no second wave. I don't know where that got started on Wall Street. He said he's not a health expert, but he's spoken with the top public health officials at some length. They're saying there's no second spike. Let me repeat, there is no second spike. There are so many ways that the media, and I'll walk you through them. I spoke to my new, I don't know what we'd call them, comrade. I hate that term. Buddy, colleague, I don't know, because we don't really know each other well. I've never met him, but Alex Berenson, who you know has this book, the truths about COVID. I mean, I forget what the exact title is, but it's, if you type in Alex Berenson COVID, it'll come up for you. I think it's Untold Truths About COVID. And we discussed this yesterday, and he was saying, look, there are so many ways when you look at the data that it is actively being misrepresented. And you think, who would ever do that? I mean, aren't we all in this together? Aren't we all going through this at the same time? How could anyone be so reckless as to misrepresent COVID data at this point in time? Aren't we supposed to be using what we know and the numbers as they come in so that we make the best policy decisions and keep people safe while also keeping the economy going? Fortunately, we're past that moral panic of, if you think that we need an economy, you just don't care about people dying. No, that is not true. It's just not true. And finally, we are past that. Finally, we are at a phase, at a stage where I think that idiocy is no longer able to be a silencing tool against the rest of us. But there's a little bit of an uptick in cases in some major metropolitan areas, and they're going to deal with it. And we know where these things are happening, but there are a lot of ways that the data can also be misrepresented. I want you to be on guard for this. Cases themselves, which just means a positive COVID test, do not mean the disease is getting worse, because there's a direct link between how much testing is going on and how many cases there are, right? If you have a lot of cases in an area, but you've had 100% of the area tested, guess what? Or even 50% of the area tested, or 20, whatever it may be. But a surge in testing also means there'll be, in aggregate, a higher number of actual cases. Another way that the statistics are being abused here, or the numbers as they come in are being abused. If you go into a hospital now, for any reason, you're likely to have in most places a COVID-19 test. I've been tested just from going to the White House, but people get tested for COVID-19 frequently. And therefore, you have people who are showing up who are asymptomatic, who are getting tested in the hospital. And they may, in fact, be counted as a COVID case. Right? It depends on how the hospital, there's an incentive in terms of federal dollars. So if someone comes in the hospital, you test them, they're not there because of COVID, but they have COVID. Now, are they going to be counted as a COVID case? Well, certainly for the positive test, but are they counted as a COVID hospitalization? You dig into this, you start to see it's more complicated. And then just the surge in hospitalizations generally. This is another way that the numbers can be abused. More people can go to hospitals now and use hospitals because and are doing so because they're allowed to for non-COVID related things. So just a spike in hospitalization usage alone is meaningless. In fact, we want that because we want people who are getting elective surgeries done. We want people who are able to go do things to get chemotherapy treatment and so on and so forth. So don't allow them to get away with this. Oh, there's all these states and the numbers. Oh, it's pandemonium. Oh, pandemonium just in time for the Trump rallies. Just in time for that. It's stunning that they're so dishonest. I told you weeks ago, they're going to come back with this. You know it. I said it. I was as clear as day on this show. They're going to resurrect this. We're going to get ready for it. The fight over the second wave is coming, and it's going to be nasty and vicious because this is in some ways even more important for their political prospects. If we're allowed to come out of this, if we're allowed to go forward and rebuild the economy and get some momentum going to the election, it's clearly of enormous benefit, not just to Trump, but to the Republican Party. And they know that. So they want to suppress the economy. They want this to continue to be in the back of people's minds going forward, because whatever they have to do, they will do in order to seize power through the ballot box. And that includes perhaps skewing those ballot boxes in their favor as well. Something we'll talk more about later. But here's the, people are talking about 18 states reporting an increase in COVID-19 case counts, spikes in Arizona, Florida, Texas. Yeah, but if those places, if they've been going down for 6 weeks and they go up 2% for a week, oh my gosh, are we all supposed to hide under our beds again? No one said that it's supposed to be at zero. Hospitals are not at risk of being overwhelmed. We should go back to business as usual with precautions in place for those at high risk. That is it. There is no other way. The people who are telling you there's another way, oh, we're going to test and trace. We're going to have an army, Fauci says, of tracers. They're going to follow you around. Hey, what'd you have for breakfast? Did you have Wheaties? Did you have Special K? Also, did you get your COVID test this morning? You had one yesterday. You need another one. And another one. This is where we are. Trying to create a turnkey totalitarian system for all of us under the guise of public health. Get ready for it.
What I'm trying to figure out is how we keep people from drowning at the moment, at this moment. And for example, if you're going to build, we're going to go back to work. How do we go? Like, for example, there are no standards. How we send kids back to school or daycare. None at all. None. What are we going to do? We got to lay that out now, because for example, I think every single solitary person out there who has a child should have child care.
Yeah, I'm gonna take this issue that's really complicated and just make it about a Democrat agenda item, childcare. Yeah, there we go. I thought we were talking about the disease. Now we're talking about how everybody needs to have government provided childcare. That's where we are. Okay. Oh my friends, Biden is we're gonna get to a point, unfortunately, where it doesn't matter how dumb what Biden says is. It doesn't matter how out of it, how inept and how completely incapable of being president he looks. Democrats don't care. You're not going to change. Anyone who's voting for Biden in the Democratic Party doesn't care about it and isn't even going to engage on this. They're just going to pretend. It's the emperor has no clothes, and they're all saying, look at that emperor's fantastic suit. It's amazing. It's so special. That's going to be the Democrats with Biden. That's not going to change. But he says things that are just untrue. And they always talk about how Trump is lying and everything. First of all, Biden has a history of being a big liar on matters that are important. Lying about his role in the civil rights movement, lying about meeting Nelson Mandela, or being arrested on the way to meet Nelson Mandela, I should say. All these different things. But here he's just saying that there's no plan for reopening schools. That's not true. There's been a plan in place for weeks, and the plan is too restrictive. But this is where I think there might finally be some pushback. People need to go to their, conservatives. We are not mobilized. And that's why I think these Trump rallies are so important. You need to go to your PTA meetings if your kids are in public school, or you need to go meet with whatever the school authorities are. If you're Catholic school, I don't know, whoever it is. I don't have kids, so I don't know how this stuff works. But you need to make sure that your voice is heard, that school needs to be open this fall. This is insane. Schools should be open this summer. They should have opened up summer schools. We can shut down the whole economy, but we can't put an extra month or two on the calendar for kids to be in school? Why? Says who? It's amazing. And here we are. We're back in this fight again to have our lives back. I mean, to reopen the country. We're still in lockdown in New York. We're in phase 1 of 4 in New York City because the lunatics in charge won't give up control and don't care how much misery they are inducing with their stupidity. And they're all Democrats.